what do Spider-Man's love interests say about the times they come from? Today we're talking about Gwen, MJ, and Michelle, the evolution of Spider-Man's leading ladies. Across 20 years of web-slinging cinema, Peter Parker's romantic partners have evolved from tragic first loves to complicated Hollywood romances to grounded modern partnerships. Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane Watson, and Michelle MJ Jones aren't just different takes on the same role. They're cultural mirrors reflecting their era's ideals about women, relationships, and what it means to love a superhero. Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy represents something beautifully pure in the Spider-Man universe: authentic connection. Unlike many superhero love interests who fall for the hero's powers or public persona, Gwen liked Peter Parker at his absolute lowest point, when he was getting pulverized by Flash Thompson and sitting awkwardly in class. Their first conversation, a playful exchange about names where Gwen teases, "I wanted to make sure you knew your name," establishes her as someone who sees Peter's awkward intelligence as charming rather than embarrassing. This authenticity extends throughout their relationship. Gwen doesn't just accept Peter's Spider-Man identity, she actively participates in his heroic mission. When the lizard attacks their school, she literally smacks the creature with equipment to help Peter. She risks her life to create the antidote serum and delivers it during the final battle. This isn't a damsel in distress, it's a true partnership where both people contribute their strengths to overcome impossible odds. The 2012 to 2014 Amazing Spider-Man films arrived during the height of YA tragic romance, when audiences were primed for love stories like Twilight and The Fault in Our Stars. Gwen embodies this era's idealization of young love cut short by circumstances beyond anyone's control. Her death isn't just a plot device, it's a meditation on how loss shapes us and the cruel randomness of tragedy striking even the most deserving people. Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Watson operates in a different universe entirely, both literally and narratively. The Raimi trilogy presents MJ as a more traditional romantic interest, complete with the complications that defined early 2000s blockbuster romance. Where Gwen's story is tragic but straightforward, Mary Jane's journey spans multiple relationships, personal growth, and the messy reality of figuring out love while dealing with trauma. Critics often focus on MJ's pattern of romantic entanglements, dating Flash, then Harry, kissing Spider-Man while with Harry, leaving John at the altar for Peter. On the surface, this looks like fickleness or worse, but context matters. Mary Jane comes from an abusive household where her father calls her trash and creates an environment of constant conflict. This background explains her attraction to validation-seeking relationships and her initial inability to recognize genuine love versus superficial attention. Peter Parker represents something different from Mary Jane. Someone who sees her completely and doesn't judge her for her flaws. When she's working as a waitress while auditioning, when she's struggling with her father's abuse, when she's uncertain about her dreams, Peter consistently supports and encourages her without trying to change her. Their relationship isn't just romance. It's Mary Jane learning what healthy love actually looks like. The trilogy's treatment of MJ reflects early 2000s attitudes toward women in blockbuster cinema. She's simultaneously empowered, pursuing her acting career, making her own romantic choices, and traditional, often needing rescue and serving as motivation for Peter's heroic journey. This tension between agency and damsel roles captures a transitional moment in how Hollywood portray female characters. Michelle MJ Jones enters the Spider-Man universe with a completely different energy. Zendaya's portrayal embodies Gen Z's preference for grounded, awkwardly real relationships over grand romantic gestures. Her famous philosophy, "Expect disappointment and you'll never be disappointed," establishes her as someone who's been hurt before and developed protective cynicism as a defense mechanism. What makes Michelle interesting is how her character develops across 3 films. In Homecoming, she's deliberately mysterious, offering cutting one-liners from the background while Peter pursues Liz Allen. This isn't underdevelopment, it's intentional characterization of someone who keeps people at arm's length. Far From Home elevates her to the main love interest, but maintains this emotional distance, showing Michelle and Peter building connection through shared experiences rather than dramatic declarations. No Way Home finally unlocks Michelle's depth by exploring her insecurities and capacity for growth. When Peter grieves Aunt May's death, Michelle has to set aside her natural pessimism to provide emotional support. Her character arc involves learning optimism not as naivety, but as a conscious choice to believe in better outcomes. This represents a more mature approach to love, partnership based on mutual emotional support rather than grand romantic gestures or tragic sacrifice. Michelle reflects 2010s to 2020s relationship ideals, skeptical of traditional romance, valuing emotional intelligence over dramatic passion, and expecting genuine partnership rather than being swept off one's feet. Her relationship with Peter suggests a new model for superhero love stories, one where the non-powered partner isn't there to be rescued or to provide tragic motivation, but to offer grounded emotional support for someone carrying impossible burdens. Each Spider-Man love interest reflects not just changing attitudes toward women, but evolving ideas about what healthy relationships look like. Gwen represents the idealization of young love and the romantic notion that true connection transcends circumstances. Mary Jane embodies the complexity of real relationships, messy, complicated by personal history requiring growth and forgiveness. Michelle suggests a more mature model, where love is built on friendship, emotional support, and mutual respect for each other's independence. These characters also show how Peter Parker himself has evolved across decades of storytelling. With Gwen, he learns that being Spider-Man means accepting devastating loss. With Mary Jane, he struggles to balance his dual identity and the costs of secrecy. With Michelle, he discovers that the right partner can make the superhero burden more bearable rather than more complicated. The progression from Gwen to Mary Jane to Michelle mirrors broader cultural shifts in how we think about women's roles in stories. Gwen's tragic death serves Peter's character development, reflecting older narratives where women's primary function was motivating male protagonists. Mary Jane's complicated choices and personal agency represent a transitional moment when female characters gained more complexity but still primarily existed in relation to male leads. Michelle's role as emotional support and genuine partner suggests a more egalitarian approach where both characters grow through their relationship. None of these interpretations is definitively better than the others. Each serves the story being told and speaks to its audience's values. Gwen Stacy's tragic arc resonates because it captures the intensity and heartbreak of young love while illustrating Spider-Man's core theme about responsibility and loss. Mary Jane's journey through multiple relationships and personal growth reflects the messy reality of figuring out love as a young adult. Michelle's grounded partnership represents a more sustainable model for how superheroes might maintain healthy relationships. What unites all three characters is their function as more than just love interests. Gwen actively participates in Spider-Man's mission and pays the ultimate price. Mary Jane forces Peter to confront the costs of his double life and choose what kind of person he wants to be. Michelle provides emotional grounding that allows Peter to process grief and trauma while continuing his heroic work. Each relationship shapes not just Peter Parker's romantic life, but his evolution as both a person and a hero. So whether you prefer Mary Jane's passionate loyalty, Gwen's tragic perfection, or Michelle's grounded partnership, each Spider-Man leading lady offers something valuable. They remind us that the best superhero stories aren't just about great power and great responsibility, they're about the very human connections that make all that power and responsibility worthwhile. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.